It's just past midnight in the Blue Mountains. A man stands beyond the safety barrier, alone, staring into the dark. His name is Ashley Gaddie. The standoff at Fletcher's Lookout is tense and surreal. The wind howls through the valley, and the night stretches on. And for a while, it looks like there was only one way out for the man. But as he stood there, the police started digging, and then they found his file. Now they knew about the women, and now they knew about Danielle. By the way, this is Dark Case, and you can call me Jack. I bring you rare and unseen true crime cases, as well as other things that you may later regret knowing, with multiple uploads every single week. So if that sounds like your kind of thing, then make sure you join the Dark Case family now by hitting subscribe and turning all notifications on. And now for today's silly little question. What one gadget do you own that completely changed your life and you couldn't live without? I kinda dread to think what some of you are gonna say, but let me know down in the comments. All of your support on Patreon and via channel memberships are so appreciated, and I really can't thank you enough. However, I'm still gonna say thank you. But now, on with the video. In early 2021, Rachel Piker was a single mum living on the New South Wales south coast in Australia. She'd recently separated from her partner and was doing her best to rebuild her life. One night, her phone buzzed. It was a random friend request on Facebook. It was from a man that she didn't know. This man was Ashley Gaddie. His profile looked normal enough. There was photos with mates, beach selfies, and a few of him holding a young child. The two began chatting, and at first he was funny, he was charming. It seemed like he was saying all the right things. He even told her how he liked strong women. He said that he loved being a dad, and he said that he just wanted something real again. And so the two of them met in person, and things went well. In fact, they went too well, because Rachel, like so many others, had no idea that Gaddie had already been the subject of multiple apprehended violence orders or AVOs, and that several women had accused him of choking, stalking, hitting, and of controlling them. But Ashley hadn't been jailed. He was still out there walking free, and he was still looking for more women, still charming anyone he could. By the time Rachel realized that something was wrong, it was already too late. Ashley's temper came out slowly. There would be a snap here, a cruel comment there, but then it escalated. He ripped out handfuls of her hair during arguments. He slammed her head into the wall. He left bruises on her face, and he pressed on her neck until she couldn't breathe anymore. And like so many survivors of coercive control, Rachel believed that maybe she was the one to blame. That maybe if she just kept things calm in the relationship, if she kept her head down, these things wouldn't happen again. But of course, they did, because let me tell you, they always do, and they'll happen over and over again. Until that is, one night in July of 2021, when Ashley Gaddie showed up to her home in a full-blown rage. He wanted to finish what he'd started. It was supposed to be a quiet night. Rachel was staying at her father's house near Shoalhaven. She was just trying to reset after weeks of fear and tension from the relationship. Her daughter was with her at the time, so when Ashley stormed into the home, Rachel knew instantly that this could be the end. No one saw this coming, there was no warning, and the man was truly furious. He chased her through the house, screaming threats. He smashed out a window. He put a hole in the wall with his fist, and when he finally got to her, he began slamming her head into the floor. Rachel's phone flew from her hand. Her daughter was in the corner, screaming. Somehow, Rachel managed to break free. She grabbed her child and ran. She then locked them both inside the spare room. The terrified mother threw anything she could in front of the door, and it did keep Ashley out, but it wouldn't hold forever. Outside in the hallway, Ashley kept on coming. He was pounding on the door, threatening to end them both, saying that no one would ever find her body. Rachel really believed that this could be the end for both of them. She remembers the weight of her daughter in her arms. She remembers the sound of Ashley tearing the house apart. But what she didn't know was that her father, who was staying in a distant part of their large home, had finally realized that something was wrong. He then called the police. When they arrived, Ashley was arrested. He was now charged with assault, with choking, stalking, and property damage. However, the man didn't go to prison. Instead, he was sentenced to community service and a $300 fine. Rachel, however, was left with PTSD, a permanent neck injury, and the terrifying knowledge that if she hadn't gotten behind that door in time, she and her daughter would both probably not be around today. But Rachel wasn't the only survivor that Ashley left in his wake. She was in fact one of 5 women who had taken out AVOs against Ashley Gaddie between 2016 and 2022. Each of these women told a similar story. It started with charm, and then came the control, followed by threats, and then the physicality. By December of 2022, Gaddie had already been convicted of choking, stalking, and the attack on Rachel. He was now out on bail for yet another alleged assault. This monster now had a known pattern. He sought out single mothers, he broke down their confidence, he isolated them, and then he flipped the switch. However, there was no real public record of what he was doing. There was no alert set out. There were no visible red flags to anyone. Ashley was still active on dating apps. He was still presenting himself as a nice guy, as a devoted father, and someone simply looking for love. And on Bumble, just days before Christmas, he matched with a 31-year-old schoolteacher, a woman named Dannielle Finlay-Jones. Her friend said that she was doing everything right. When she first met with Ashley, she met him in a public place, and she even brought him to a trusted friend's home for the night. Everyone knew where she was. She wasn't alone. In fact, she was extremely cautious. But still, none of this really mattered. Gaddie knew how to act and how to deceive. He quickly had her fooled, just like he had done so many times before. Danielle was the kind of person who brought joy to a gathering. She was a beloved schoolteacher and a fierce advocate for girls in sport. For 25 years, she'd played with the Ramsgate Rams, a women's football or soccer club. She eventually became the team captain and was a respected leader on and off the field.
This year we have grown. At the beginning of the year, we were very lucky enough to offer free registration for any new junior female football player, which has then led to a 21% increase in junior female players.
Fantastic.
And it's closing the gap with our junior players, and our ratio is now edging towards 40% females and 60% males. So we're starting to really close that gap and work towards what our strategic plan was for the near future. But our main goal is for everyone to have fun, come as a team, be a family, and just get a bit of fun out of it. You know, we've had a tough time the last year. So what better way than to come meet some new people, kick a ball around, enjoy your weekends.
She had just landed a new teaching role, where she will be working with students with special needs. Her friends described her as loyal, as funny, and as endlessly hopeful. At 31 years old, she was ready to settle down. So in December of 2022, she joined Bumble to try and find the right person, and that's when she matched with Ashley Gaddie. Ashley told her that he wanted kids, that he wanted a serious relationship, something real. He really said all the right things, and Danielle, who had always seen the best in people, well, she believed him. She had no reason not to. They met for the first time in early December, and then again just days later, and by their third date, she felt comfortable enough to introduce him to her friends. It was a casual Christmas drinks gathering at a pub in Marsden Park, so Danielle brought Gaddie along, and she even called him her new partner. Her best friend Taylor was there, and she remembered them cuddling, laughing, saying that nothing seemed off at all. In fact, quite the opposite. Later that night, the group headed back to Taylor's house in Cranebrook. Danielle and Gaddie took the spare bedroom. It was just meant to be a sleepover with a new guy, just a third date. But at around 3 a.m, Taylor's partner woke her up. He said that he heard something. She said it sounded like they were having relations, but of a loud and violent kind. At the time, they laughed it off. Danielle had always been open about her love life, so they assumed everything was consensual and she was just having fun. But by the next afternoon, they hadn't seen or heard from her. Taylor knocked on the bedroom door, but she got no answer. When she walked in, everything changed. Danielle was lying on her back on the bedroom floor. A blanket was covering part of her body, but the red DNA was still visible. Her face was bruised, her nose was clearly injured, and her neck was marked by what looked like finger impressions. Taylor screamed Danielle's name over and over again, hoping for just a flicker of life. However, there was none. It was far too late. Emergency services were called, but there was nothing they could do. Dannielle Finlay-Jones, adored daughter, teammate, teacher and friend, was gone. The coroner later ruled that pressure to the neck was the cause. Police believed that she passed either during or shortly after the sounds that had been heard by Taylor's partner at 3 a.m. And by the time they found her, Ashley Gaddie was already gone. He'd escaped by cutting a hole in the fly screen on the window and then slipping out into the night, leaving his new partner laying there. What Danielle didn't know, what none of her friends could have guessed, was that she had brought a serial offender into their home. Gaddie had AVOs from 5 separate women, and he was also on bail for another assault at the time. And yet somehow he had slipped through every single crack. He had just continued dating, a true monster walking free. He found woman after woman who didn't yet know what he was capable of until it was too late. Taylor, the friend who found her, was haunted by the image. She later told 60 Minutes that she couldn't erase the sight of Danielle's face, lying there bruised and lifeless. "I just kept saying her name," she said. News of Danielle spread fast. By the time her ex-colleagues and football club heard, Ashley Gaddie was already on the run. For 2 full days, police scoured Sydney and beyond looking for Ashley. And then a call came in. A man had been spotted, standing at the edge of a cliff in the Blue Mountains. When officers arrived, they found Gaddie at Fletcher's Lookout, on the wrong side of the safety barrier. He'd already been there for hours. Police negotiators, rescue teams, along with tactical units, surrounded the area. They spent the next 12 hours trying to talk him back from the ledge. The public didn't yet know who this man was, and the media was still catching up. But emergency services on the scene had already been briefed. They knew the man was accused of doing this to Danielle. They also knew that he had a long history of disturbing behaviour, and many of them knew that if the system had just worked, if someone had had the power to act sooner, Danielle would still be alive. Eventually, just after midnight, officers pulled Ashley from the ledge and then took him into custody. He was charged with murder, but the damage was already done. Ashley Gaddie waited for 16 months, sat behind bars, awaiting his day in court. Danielle's family prepared themselves the best that they could. They wanted him to face the consequences of what he'd done. They wanted the chance to speak, to stand in court and read out victim impact statements. They wanted to look Ashley Gaddie in the eye. They believed they were owed that, at least. On the afternoon of April 6, 2024, correctional officers at Clarence Correctional Centre found Gaddie unresponsive in his single cell. He was pronounced at 4:04 p.m. He left no final note. His end came just weeks before he was due to enter a plea. Rachel Piker, his former partner, said that she now felt numb. She'd spent years trying to warn people. She testified in court that his behaviour was escalating. She told people that he was a dangerous man and that he would kill. But nobody had listened. "Part of me wishes he'd jumped that day at the cliffs," she said. "He was a waste of space. At least now, no more women will be hurt by him." Danielle's loved ones were devastated. They said it felt like Ashley had escaped accountability once again. Her friend Jamie Lee wrote, "We wanted the plea. We wanted justice. Now we get nothing." Danielle's mother Jackie called it a cop-out. Her brother Blake said it plainly. He didn't just steal her life, he stole our chance to speak for her. In the aftermath of Ashley Gaddie's end, those left behind have now shifted their focus. They no longer look at the man, but on the failures that let him in. Danielle's family is now campaigning for bail law reform. This would mean that violent repeat offenders would no longer get chance after chance after chance. They also want dating apps to start implementing background checks. They want AVO breaches and violence against women to finally be taken seriously before someone else ends up like Danielle. Because, as it stands, 5 women tried to warn a system about Ashley Gaddie. One of those is lucky to be alive, and then Danielle never even got the chance to see danger coming. Friends of Danielle say that she was more than a victim. They say that she was a leader, a fighter, and a light in their lives. And now her name is being used valiantly to demand change, to make sure there's not another Ashley Gaddie to take his place. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.